No one's coming to push you. No one's coming to tell you to turn the TV off. No one's coming to tell you to get out the door and exercise. The bottom line is, no one's coming. No one. You may or may not have seen the TED Talk that I gave a few years ago. One of the things that surprised me the most about that talk is that we hear from people around the world that write about one segment in particular. And let me play that segment for you because it sets up the conversation for today. And it's this concept of parenting yourself. When you become 18, nobody tells you that it's now going to be your job to parent yourself. And by parent yourself, I mean it's your job to make yourself do the crap you don't want to do so you can be everything that you're supposed to be. And you're so damn busy waiting to feel like it. And you're never going to. My son never feels like getting off his DS. That's my job. Get off the damn DS. Kendall, clean up the Barbies. If you're gonna have a nude party in my bathroom, at least clean it up. God, chew with your mouth closed. We're not in a barn for crying out loud. All right, dinner's coming, get out of the pantry. As parents, and you were a kid, your parents make you do the things you don't feel like doing because you won't. Ever. Not now, not then, not ever. And even when you get good at something, you'll figure out something else you don't want to do. And then you'll plateau out and you'll get bored and you're like, I hate this job, it's boring. But will you look for a new one? No, you'll just bitch about that one. It's very, very simple to get what you want, but it's not easy. Wow. You know, that talk was 6 years ago. I cannot believe how little my kids were back then. And I also hate watching it because that was the first time I'd ever given a speech. So my voice is like really screechy and I swear, which I typically don't do on stage ever. So woof. Anyway, this concept of parenting yourself is really, really important for you to wrap your brain around. And let me dig into it just a little bit. I write extensively in part 2 of the 5-second rule book about how we make decisions. And the fact that we make decisions not based on what we know we need to do, not based on our goals, but based on how we feel right now. It's your feelings that make the decision for you. It's one of the reasons why parents are so important for kids, because if we let it up to kids to do whatever they felt like doing, they'd never go to school, they'd never do their homework, they'd never use their manners, they'd never learn to eat correctly, they'd never do anything. They'd just sit around and watch TV all day. That's the job of a parent. What most of us don't realize, though, and this is what I was alluding to in the TED Talk, is that when you become 18, when you move out of the house, when you're an adult, you have to parent yourself. Here's the rub. You're never, ever, ever, ever going to feel like doing the things you need to do in order to have what you want. You're always going to need to push yourself. You're always going to need to parent yourself. So what is the net advice on this? What is the bottom line? The bottom line is no one's coming. No one. No one's coming to push you. No one's coming to tell you to turn the TV off. No one's coming to tell you to get out the door and exercise. Nobody's coming to tell you to apply for that job that you've always dreamt about. Nobody's coming to write the business plan for you. It's up to you. And because you're only ever going to do the things that you feel like doing right now or that feel good right now, unless you understand that you've got to parent yourself, you got to push yourself, you're not going to make your dreams come true. You're just not. We're not wired that way. You weren't born that way, you weren't that way when you were growing up, and you're certainly not that way as an adult. And there's a tremendous amount of liberation that comes when you accept the fact that you're always going to need to give yourself a push.
How do I rebuild my relationship with myself when starting from ground zero?
So
Mel, this is a pretty broad, expansive question, and so I thought maybe we would talk about this, and then we would narrow down into specifically what we're talking about. So starting from ground zero might mean, hey, I had a traumatic event happen to me, or maybe my life is changing. Maybe I'm reaching a point in my life where I need to do something different. I'm learning that everything I've done to make me happy or fulfilled or satisfied isn't working. So for Federico, where do we even start? What do we talk about?
You actually start the exact same place we all have to start. Every morning in the mirror. Every single morning in the mirror. You see, the most important relationship that you have in life is the one you have with yourself. It is the foundation of every relationship that you have. It's the foundation of how you experience life. And what we're going to punch a hole through today is the fact that every single human being has a disgusting, ugly, self-destructive habit that nobody is talking about that is part of your morning routine.
Yeah.
And here's the habit. Federico and everybody on the planet currently stands in front of the mirror as they brush their teeth. Hopefully you're brushing your teeth and wiping that gunk out of your mouth, right? So we get rid of the dragon breath. But as you're doing that, you're doing one of two things. Every human being does this. You either beat the daylights out of yourself and you focus on all the stuff you need to fix, the things you hate, the parts of yourself you can't stand. And that's the good news, because the majority of people are doing the other thing. This is sad. The majority of people cannot even look at themselves in the mirror because they are disgusted, or they are disappointed, or they don't like how long they've let themselves go. And so every morning, part of your morning routine right now, and this goes so down to the core of what's not working and what you can easily flip and change. Because if you stand in front of the mirror and you can't even look at yourself, that is a habit of self-rejection that gets repeated every single day. You are not even secure enough with yourself and accepting enough of yourself to look at the mirror and see, holy cow, because here's the other thing I want everyone to understand right now. We're going to explain the high five habit, but here's the first breakthrough. You're either, be honest with yourself, which do you do? Do you not look in the mirror, or do you focus on the things that you need to fix?
Yeah, no, I mean, I do look in the mirror, and yeah, there's certainly, I'm going through the day, I'm like thinking how I could have done things differently, what I need to do the next day. Yeah, so I do look in the miror.
Okay.
Yeah, I tend to avoid looking in the mirror. Yeah. Why is that?
You tell me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, think about it. Why do you think you don't look in the mirror?
I've never thought that it was a necessity to gaze upon myself. I'm sure I glance. There's a picture of me in the mirror, but it becomes second nature in a way.
Yes.
And so I don't beat myself up so much. I mean, that's a different sort of story that we tell ourselves. But I've never thought about the power of looking in the mirror and how that might actually benefit me.
Well, I want you to consider it's not a reflection. There are two human beings in the bathroom with you every morning. There's you.
And my daughter, she's always
so now there's four.
bothering me in the bathroom.
Or the dog or whatever, or there's two human beings.
Right.
There's you, and there's a human being in the mirror. And the human being in the mirror is really trying. And they are in need of your support. And they are in need of your encouragement. And they need you to wake up and to see them, and they need you to stop beating them up, and they need some encouragement. And this is a really deep thing. And it begins every morning by simply taking a moment and being with the human being in the mirror, which I think represents your soul, your spirit, your potential. For people that, kind of like the inner child work and that stuff, it represents the person inside you that's still trying to heal. And if you begin your day every day by not looking in the mirror or by picking apart the things you don't like, 91% of women do not like how they look.
Wow.
50% of people cannot look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And what you just said is exactly right. Most of us, it's so casual, spend that moment drifting into the day where we start to think about all the things we need to do. Or, if you're like a lot of us, you're already pile driving yourself going, I got up too late and I got to answer that email and I didn't get this done and and then you catch yourself in the mirror and you then start, oh my God, I look like crap and I got to be on a Zoom call in 8 minutes and I haven't walked the dog yet. And the pile driving begins.
Yes.
And you guys know that once your attitude goes negative, it's going to continue to take you down.
Yeah.
And so first things first, we got to break the habit of self-rejection. And we need to create a new habit of partnership, trust, encouragement, compassion, connection to self. Yeah. Because if we can start to help you every morning to start your day with a little bit of partnership and compassion with yourself, if you can build the ability to like yourself, even if you're not where you want to be in life, it won't matter if other people don't like you because that can't change the fact that you like yourself.
Yeah.
And so this isn't about being a narcissistic asshole. This is not about being a jerk. This is not about being selfish. This is not about being some cocky, overconfident. This is about compassion. This is about support. This is about your most fundamental, profound needs. Love people, use things. That's your book.
Yeah.
None of us know how to love ourselves. And it begins every morning with this new habit I want you to create that I created during a terrible moment in my life called the high five habit. I had two habits that were always a telltale sign for something's wrong in Mel's life. I would rearrange the furniture in the house, and I would spend money that I didn't have. It was almost like a way to pretend my problems weren't real. And we do the exact same thing with booze, by the way. We do the exact same thing with food, by the way. That reaching for something that you know isn't good for you becomes the pattern that you repeat when you feel like when you feel like you have no power, when you feel like things are out of control, when you feel down on yourself, you reward yourself with those things temporarily. And so again, write down your goals. So what are the boundaries with money? What do you need to make? What do you want to put away? Be realistic in the beginning so that you can achieve it. Figure out what you need to do in terms of if you were actually doing that. I've always wanted a six-pack and I don't have it. And I don't know, and I've never had it. And when I finally stopped complaining about it when I got honest about what it was going to require. Oh, I'm dead serious about this. At my, at 49, with my affinity for alcohol and my love of carbs and my distaste for exercise, I have a small problem on my hands if I want a six-pack. So if you were to go forward, right, and think, okay, well, if a year from now I had a six-pack, what would my day-to-day life look like? Woo. And you can get very clear that you're not committed to that. And then you can stop beating yourself up for the shit you never intend on doing, right? So, what I realized is I can spend 4 minutes a day in a hotel room or in my bedroom doing planks, and my arms look great, and everybody else will think the rest of my body's in shape. And we're good. We're good. Yes. It works like a charm. So you might want to get honest with yourself. Like instead of doing this really, I want to be a millionaire, I want to do this. Do you really? Because you can make it happen. You actually can. Look at all the idiots that are making money. You can make money. But you're going to have to roll the clock forward just a year and say, okay, if I'm able to put $1,000 a month against my debt, I'm able to make X amount of dollars a month, I'm able to put X amount of dollars in savings. What do I need to be doing a year from now to make that happen? And what are those habits that are there a year from now that I don't have right now? And then roll yourself back to this moment, just like I explained with exercise. Do I actually not want to have a Manhattan tonight? Nope. Did I want to go to the gym today? Nope. Am I willing to not eat what I ate for breakfast? Nope. Am I willing? I did my 4 minutes. My arms are looking really good. But so bring it back, and then you will have the formula for pivoting at any moment. You time travel forward a year. You investigate the patterns that you have that are giving you the result that you want, and then you back your ass up to right here, right now. And you decide, Am I willing to do this now? If I'm willing, then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 through all the bullshit excuses that are going to be there when you're trying to override your operating system. That's how you do it. Or you have the reality check like I had, which is, oh shit, I just like to bitch. I don't intend on changing, so why don't we get this off the plate? And let's focus on the things that I am actually committed to. One of the other things that I love to do is to bring you behind the scenes. You're actually with me in LA right now in my hotel room. We had some downtime before a huge event, and so I'm taking the time to answer a bunch of questions that we've received. Strick is asking, how do I be more present? It's a fantastic question, and let me distinguish really quickly before we jump into how, the difference between the past, the present, and the future. If you're living in the past, you're going to be depressed because you are rehashing things that happened to you that are not going to happen again. If you're living in the future, you're going to be anxious because you are anticipating what's coming or you're wishing for things that aren't happening yet. Being in the present is where the gold is. Being in the present moment is where you will have the greatest control, where you will feel the most at ease, and where happiness flourishes. There's a super tight connection between happiness and the ability to live in the present moment. A lot of people believe that happiness is tied to the things that happen to you. Not so at all. In fact, there is a professor of positive psychology. He's one of the grandfathers of the movement. He teaches at the University of Pennsylvania. His name is Martin Seligman, and he's studied happiness for decades. Now, one of the things that we've talked about a lot is that 40% of your happiness levels are preset by genetics. 60% you are in complete control of. And one of the things that this professor has discovered is that it doesn't matter what's happened to you. In fact, some of the people that have had the worst things happen to them, like people that have survived the Holocaust, are actually the happiest and most grateful people in the world. Happiness comes down to this right up here. It comes down to your thoughts, it comes down to your mindset, it comes down to your attitude, and you are 100% control of what you're thinking. You may not be in control of how you feel in the moment, but you can always, 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 always be in control of what you think. And that will change how you're feeling. One of the most powerful things that you can do in terms of think, and this gets back to Strick's question, is how do you be present? Being present is literally nothing more than the skill of having your thoughts be in this moment, not in the past, not in the future, but right here. The way that you teach yourself how to do that is that the moment that you catch yourself being distracted, the moment you catch yourself starting to worry, the moment you catch yourself drifting to the future or drifting to the past, that's a moment of tremendous power because you basically just woke up. You basically just noticed that you're not here in this particular moment. So use that wake-up call, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and ground yourself in this moment. The best way to ground yourself in the moment is to look for something in this particular moment that you can savor. Now, I'm using the word savor on purpose because it's the word that psychologists use to describe what happens when you find something in this moment right now, right here, right now, to focus on and to appreciate. It could be literally the questions. These are printed out questions from people on social media. And if I were to stop and look at these and savor them, what I would feel in this moment is a tremendous amount of gratitude because people are taking the time to write. And that makes me feel incredibly grateful. And it also makes me very happy because it means that the folks that are writing are taking control of their lives and seeking out the information that they need. Another form of savoring that we can all relate to is eating. As you're eating, instead of drifting to the future and thinking about all the things that you need to do or hanging out in the past and rehashing everything that's happened during the day, be in this moment, in this meal. Slow down. Think about the food that you're eating. Think about the people that you're sitting with and how you feel about them. And if you want to take it up a notch, actually acknowledge them. Hey, this food tastes amazing. Thank you for cooking. Or I'm so glad to see you and that we get the time to have this meal together. Those small, simple acts of savoring are how you expand your happiness inside the present moment. So, how do you be more present? Simple. The moment that you catch yourself in the future, in the past, worrying, whatever, refocus yourself right here, right now, and then find something right here, right now that you can savor. And when you do that, you're not only going to be present, you're going to feel more grateful, and you're going to feel a little boost of happiness.
Hey,
All right, so today's my 52nd birthday. And normally on my birthday, I wake up excited because I feel like I've just been handed a clean slate and the opportunity to create a brand new year. And I spend the day reflecting on the last couple of years, and I spend the day brainstorming about what I want to create this year. And this year is not a normal year. I did not wake up feeling excited. I woke up feeling lost. Because as I thought back over the last few years, it's been an incredible adventure, but I've experienced a tremendous amount of change in my professional and personal life that has just knocked me on my knees. From losing my daytime talk show, to having my book contract rescinded, to having the speaking business basically implode until at least another year from now, to not being able to be with you face to face, to not being able to work with my team face to face. I just got rocked. And then on top of it, our son wanted to go to high school in Vermont. And so we are in the process of moving from the home that we've been in for over 20 years and raised our kids up to a very small town in southern Vermont where I know very few people and I feel very disconnected. And the result of all this is I feel stuck in between two lives. My old life, which has ended, and a new life that I have yet to create for myself. And when I look ahead to the future, I feel overwhelmed. I feel lost. I feel disconnected. In some ways, I feel like I don't even know who I am because I feel so disconnected from the things that make me feel alive and happy. And so what am I going to do about it? Part of me honestly just wants to sit here and cry all day and feel sorry for myself, but that's not going to make me feel better. Here are the steps I'm going to take. Number one, self-awareness is critical. So recognizing that you feel lost or disconnected or suspended between your old life and your new life, overwhelmed, whatever you feel, it's so important to name it. Because when you name it, you bring it out of the feeling in your body and out into the world, and then you can do things to tame that feeling. Number two, the most important thing that you should do is move your body, because all this negative emotion is trapped in your body right now, and it's only through exercise and motion that you'll move it out of your body and you'll change your emotional state. So I am going to go put on an exercise tape and work up a sweat. Will that solve all my problems? No. But it will put me in a better emotional state so that I can think more clearly and more optimistically and start to see solutions. Number three, the best advice about happiness is happy people do things that make them happy. And so after you move your body and you change your emotional state, do one thing that makes you happy. And for me, I'm going to go out and buy myself some beautiful flowers. I've been doing a lot of writing this morning, just dumping all my thoughts onto paper. And I think journaling out your thoughts is a really important thing to do when you feel stuck or overwhelmed or suspended. And then finally, continue to remind yourself that this is temporary. This is temporary. This moment is temporary. These feelings are temporary. This feeling of stuckness and overwhelm is temporary. Oh. Ooh. Oh. Those sneezes are temporary. And I think the biggest thing about that mantra, that this is temporary, is so is your life. And maybe that's why birthdays are overwhelming, because they always make you think about the timeline of your life. And so after you become self-aware and you move your body, which moves your emotions, and you do something simple that makes you happy, and you dump all your thoughts on a piece of paper, remind yourself that this is temporary and force yourself to start dreaming again. Because when you give up on your dreams, you give up on yourself. And I think that's one of the reasons why I woke up feeling lost today. When I look ahead, I don't see anything I'm looking forward to because I haven't created something new to look forward to. And that's the secret. How you're feeling right now is a function of what you see in the future. And if you see overwhelm and a blank page and nothingness, that's how you're going to feel right now. And so I want you to dream big. I want you to put something on that paper that's out in that future, that calls to you, that gives you something to look forward to go for. That's how you will pull yourself out of it. And that's how I'm going to pull myself out of this too. So that's my birthday message. Not really inspiring. It's authentic and it's real because this is where I am right now. And I also know that despite how low I feel, I have a choice. I have a choice about what I do about it. I have a choice about who I'm going to be in the face of it. And I have a choice about what comes next. So by God, I'm going to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, push myself to create a future that really empowers me. And I want you to do the same too. If you could do anything for me for my birthday, it would be for you to dream really big today. That would mean everything to me. I love you.
Remember in middle school when you'd be sitting at the lunch table with your friends and you'd agree with just about anything they said in order to fit in and make sure they thought you were cool? Well, have you ever sat down at a table with all your friends now and still feel like you can't be you? It might sound silly to think that you're still dealing with this shit as an adult, but it's more common than you think. Feeling like you can't be yourself or that you have to change who you are in order to be liked is one of the most normal pressures we feel. But that doesn't mean it's right or that you have to live with it. But if you don't ever feel like yourself, what is the cost of fitting in? Do you keep quiet? Do you wear certain clothes? Do you act a certain way or pretend to like things that you don't? Fitting in may make you think you're safe and secure around other people, but are you really safe and secure if you're creating distance from your true self? The answer is no. They call it peer pressure because the desire to fit in is putting pressure on you to be someone you're not. Now, peer pressure is a concept that we deal with our entire lives. It's so tempting to just stay quiet and go with the group because you think you're going to get invited more. You think you'll be accepted than you would if you were just being you, or so you think. You know that uneasy feeling you have when you can't be yourself? You're sitting there at the table, but you're not really there. Or you feel like you're always on the outside, looking in at a group of people, wondering why you don't feel like you belong. You got to pay attention to this feeling because it means you don't feel safe and secure being yourself. And it also means you don't feel safe and secure with this group of people. That insecurity can stem from a million things. So let's just focus on what you should do about it. First of all, you have to stop putting pressure on yourself to be somebody you're not. You're not only robbing yourself of enjoying your life, you're robbing your friends of enjoying the real you. Now, what I've come to learn is that if you're pretending to be somebody you're not, your friends are likely pretending to be somebody they're not too. And if you don't stop this pressure to conform in its tracks, you're going to end up having friends that don't even know you. And worse, you're going to start to feel like you don't even know yourself. The more time you spend blending in, staying quiet, pleasing the people around you, the more you'll feel like you aren't yourself. That's the pressure you're feeling right now. Now, the first step to being the real you is getting to know yourself again. And it's going to sound kind of weird, but all you got to do is spend time with yourself, listen to your instincts. Maybe spend 10 minutes every morning reading something that interests you. Go for a walk. Get started on a project you've been thinking about. Find something that energizes you and set aside time to explore it on a daily, weekly, or even a monthly basis. And here's the most important part. Start talking about it with your friends. If you like different things or have different opinions than your friends do, it doesn't make you wrong. We all have this knee-jerk reaction that as soon as you're the odd one out, you're going to get kicked out of the group. That's why you stay quiet. That's why you shrink in order to blend in. It's bullshit. You need to fight your fears in order to be yourself. What if you getting real is what your friend needed to find the confidence to be real too? Confidence doesn't come from your friends liking the real you. Confidence is knowing you'll be fine if they don't. And if the people around you don't like the real you, remember, you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people you're around. The only thing you'll lose by being real is something that's fake. So if you've been blending in since you were a kid, give yourself permission to live as yourself. It's a gift you deserve right now. Because in reality, other people liking you is a bonus. You liking yourself, now that's the real prize. So we got a cool question on Twitter from Langley in Nigeria, and it has to do with something that we've been hearing from a lot of you about, and that is imposter syndrome. Particularly for those of you that are running a small business, or those of you that have a side hustle that you're trying to turn into your full-time thing. Imposter syndrome is very real. Let's deal with it right now. Langley writes from Nigeria, I'm passionate about film and cinema, Mel. I tweet and I blog about it. People are inspired by what I write. But when I'm offered certain opportunities, I clench up and suddenly feel like an imposter who will mess up and be found. I'm 36, I'm single, in a paycheck to paycheck situation, and feel like I have wasted many years due to overthinking, self-doubt, and never feeling good enough or ready. How can I overcome this? Well, you can't. You can't overcome the feelings that are rising up, Langley, but you can take action despite them. That's a very important distinction that I want each and every one of you to understand. The things that you're feeling, clenching up, feeling like you're not good enough, feeling like you're not ready, doubting yourself, kind of spending too much time thinking about how much time you've wasted, all that's normal that we all do. You cannot overcome those thoughts because they keep rising up and they've become a habit and it's sort of a pattern. So I don't want you to focus on the thoughts. I want you to focus on taking action, even though you doubt yourself. You are going to feel like an imposter until you push through that clenched up moment over and over and over again. And then suddenly, through action, Langley, you're going to see that you're not an imposter at all. You're actually the kind of person that pushes through and does what he or she says they are going to do. See, imposter syndrome grows and sticks around when you listen to it and when you keep thinking and when you freeze. The moment you take action, even though you feel like an imposter, you actually explode the syndrome. You kill it. You break it apart because you're not acting like an imposter. You're proving to yourself through the action that you know what you're doing. Now look, the feelings are going to take a while to catch up. The first 16 jobs that you do where you feel nervous, those nerves are going to be there with you the entire time. Feeling nervous is normal. Letting it stop you is a choice. I say this stuff all the time because this is what you're struggling with. If you suffer from imposter syndrome, it's not an issue of whether or not you have the skill. The problem is that you have a pattern of thinking in a way that stops you the moment you start to doubt yourself. If you want to be successful in business, if you truly want that side hustle to turn into your full-time thing, you have to learn how to let the feelings of doubt rise up, but take action anyway. You've got to learn to embrace the fact that you're gonna feel like an imposter, but you, my friend, are the kind of person that moves forward anyway. You're passionate about film and cinema. Awesome. Keep tweeting, keep blogging. When people write to you, when they hire you and you get that clenched up feeling, that's a great sign. It means you're about to do something really cool. That's when you're going to just recognize the feeling, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take action like the rock star film and cinema guy that you are. I hope that that helps, but the only thing that's going to help you with imposter syndrome is for you to not listen to it and take action anyway.
There was this one morning where I walked into the bathroom and I was standing in my underwear brushing my teeth in front of the mirror, and I looked up at the mirror and my first thought was, ugh. I noticed that my jowls were starting to look like saddlebags on a pack horse at the Grand Canyon.
And I had like these crazy lines by my eyes, and my neck was really like kind of saggy, and one boob was hanging lower than the other, and my gray hair was coming in. And as soon as I started kind of critiquing my thoughts or my looks and appearance, then my mind, Rich, started going, fuck, I didn't get that email back to that person, and I got that presentation I need to do, and my God, did that speech just cancel again? What the f am I going to do? And then I look down and the dog needs to be walked, and then I think, I got a Zoom call in 9 minutes. Like, I got to get my shit. And before I knew it, my whole mood was low. I felt overwhelmed. I had taken myself down mentally. I just wanted somebody to walk in and be like, Mel, it's going to be okay. Like, you got this, girl. Like, it's lift your head up. You can handle this. I don't know what came over me, Rich. This is pathetic. But standing there in my underwear in front of my bathroom sink, I raised my hand and high-fived my reflection. And I cracked a smile because it's so fucking corny. I even thought of that guy, Stuart Smiley from the SNL skits. Remember that? I'm nice, I'm kind, people like me. Went on with my day. That was it.
Snapped a photo, though.
No, not that one.
Oh, not that one. Not the first time.
And then I kept doing it. I did it probably for a week or two. And here's the weird thing about it. I started when I woke up after doing this high-five your own reflection in the mirror thing. I actually started to feel like I was looking forward to it. And here's why. You know, I've spent a lifetime, just like you, standing in front of the mirror. And what I realize now is that when I'm standing in front of a mirror, I'm either critiquing or picking myself apart, or I'm ignoring myself. And when you start to high-five your own reflection, it starts to build a partnership within you, with yourself. When you walk into the bathroom and you see your reflection and you've been greeting it, it's like seeing another person. It's the strangest thing. You start to realize how often you fucking ignore or destroy yourself when you see yourself or beat yourself up. And here's what's also crazy. You have a lifetime positive association with high-fiving other people.
Sure.
As a runner, as a racer, you have gotten so many high fives, Rich. What does a high five say to you when somebody gives you one?
You feel seen, you feel appreciated, you feel energized by it, and it's an exchange of energy. It's not the same, and you talk about this in the book, it's not the same as like self-talk because there's a participation involved in it. There's like a communion aspect to it.
Yeah. And, you know, if you think about it, you're so good at celebrating, seeing, and cheering for other people in your life. You plan birthday parties, you reach out to people when you're worried about them, you help out colleagues, you cheer for your favorite sports teams, you high-five people like Rich as they're running races past you, you buy people's merchandise, you do all kinds of stuff for other people, but nobody's taught you how to do it for yourself. In fact, the reason why it feels fucking weird to high-five your own reflection is because you've been taught to do the opposite.
Why is the default to just beat ourselves down like that? I mean, it is crazy. We would never treat anyone else in our lives, especially the people we care about, the way that we treat ourselves in terms of the self-talk or the narrative or the critique or the, you know, the kind of harshness with which we, you know, judge our appearances, our behavior, the way we, you know, think back on things that we said the other day and just are horrified by our own selves. And it's, I don't know if it's everybody, but
Everybody.
it's most people.
Except for Buddhists. I mean, I think that they're like if you're a big practicing Buddhist, that's a monk.
Right.
That's like just
Why
kind
can't
of,
the default be the good things though?
well,
You know, why is it wired
you know
that
why?
way?
There's cognitive bias. There's a bias towards negativity. And it's a protection mechanism that's a default from evolution, that if you remember the bad shit, you're more likely to spot it when it happens in the
Right.
future.
So you can avoid it.
And here's where I think it begins. I believe my theory is that it begins two places. Either you, or that could be both actually, you either learned the pattern of beating yourself up because you had parents or caregivers that were hard on themselves or hard on you. And so as a child, you absorbed that pattern and you now repeat it and you don't even realize it. So those moments you're like, oh my God, I sound just like my dad or my mom. That is an example of a pattern that you've absorbed. So particularly for women, we've watched our mothers be critical about their appearance. We've watched our mothers ignore and criticize themselves in the mirror. And so we learn that from our caregivers. So that's one place. The second place that we learn it is when the drive in your life becomes fitting in. Fitting into groups in elementary, middle, high school, college, your neighborhood, that feels safe when you fit in. When you feel like you don't belong, you immediately go into a protection mechanism. And I believe a lot of the negative self-talk is a sorting hat type of mentality that we do to ourselves going, I can't be with those people. I can't be with those people. It's safe to be with those people. And you start to see yourself and the world around you as places where you belong and places where you don't. And part of the criticism, as fucked up as it sounds, that we engage in all the time is don't be too big, don't be too loud, don't show yourself too much, don't have blue hair, don't do this, other people won't like you. It starts as a way to protect yourself from being rejected, but the truth is you develop a habit of rejecting yourself.
Right. Meanwhile, you're further divorcing yourself from who you truly are because you're not
Correct.
giving yourself permission to be yourself. That gets sublimated in favor of fitting in and, accommodating other people and acclimating your behavior around what will be approved of.
Yes. So for me, I have clearly a lifetime of beating myself up and tearing myself down and regretting decisions that I made. And in the middle of stumbling through life, instead of being like, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay, being like, you're really fucked up now, Mel. How does that help?
Right.
How does criticizing and being hard on yourself help? The barrier is everybody gives a shit what other people are thinking.
Yeah.
And so they're on camera or they're on a microphone trying to be smart or concerned about whether or not they look good in the shot, concerned about how they sound, whether or not they stuttered, if their neck is turning red, like whatever it may be. And they're so up here that they're not actually being true to just saying what's right here.
Absolutely.
Whether you're speaking from the heart, speaking from the gut, like that is the skill to develop, is the ability to be more like an 11-year-old that gets on camera and can just be themselves instead of being a 49-year-old person censoring themselves.
Got it.
And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about the truth, when I talk about authenticity, that people really want to feel that connection. And the only way that they're going to feel that connection is if you do the work to remove the own veneer and the own barriers that you put in between you and other people. And the number one thing is everybody gives too much of a shit about what everybody else thinks.
Absolutely.
And you know who they think they're worried the most about? Their friends.
Yeah.
If I put this thing up, not for my friends, but for the people that I'm trying to build a rapport with online, my friends are going to judge me. Your friends. Seriously. If you're out to make a difference, if you're out to share something that is important to you, if your friends don't like it or don't support you, they're really not your friends.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, no, definitely makes total sense.
And it's a really hard lesson. It's a very hard lesson because everybody's always judging everybody else. That's why you can't worry about it.
Do you have like recommendations for how people just get started, like from moving from that, like to basically move from their mindset of I care too much to I don't care as much? Like, are there steps that you recommend people take?
The only step that really works is action.
Okay.
Because if you're stopping to think about what people are thinking or whether or not you're worried about what people are thinking, you've already fallen into the trap. The second that you push yourself to get started through the action itself, you are proving to yourself that even though you care what everybody thinks, you're gonna do it anyway.
Okay.
And so that's why I talk about the 5-second rule. The 5-second rule is how you interrupt the excuses, the patterns, the concerns, and the fears that you have, whether it's perfectionism, whether it's disappointing your parents, whether it's being judged by your friends, whether it's looking stupid when you post something, whether it's screwing up and saying something that a bunch of trolls come after you for, right? All those things that everybody's concerned about, that can stop you forever.
Absolutely.
If you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you break the part of the brain where all of those trappings are, and you awaken your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that you're using when you're creating content, when you're speaking with courage, when you're learning something new. And so that's
why this simple brain trick that I invented is exploding around the world, because every last one of us is exactly the same. Exactly the same. You and I, we want the same thing. We want to actually live a life where we get to express ourselves at the highest level. We're all want the same thing, and we're all stopping ourselves the same way, by thinking too much, by buying into the lies that self-doubt tells you. And so I'm here to tell you, you can cut that off at the knees. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can make a 5-second decision. The second you feel that doubt, the second you feel that concern, the second you feel that fear, and you can literally feel it and actually move anyway. Hey everybody, so this is an amazing question from Alan. Alan's a 17-year-old guy who wants advice about friends, and he writes, I'm 17 and this has been going on since I was 12. When I'm with cooler or popular guys, I feel inferior and worthless, which affects me. And weirdly, I try so hard to impress them and be like them like a chameleon. I try to avoid them, but I feel left out. Whatever I do, I feel sad or useless. What can I do in order to overcome this? So Alan, this is a question and a problem that plagues all of us, and it would be a dream come true for me if I could help you figure this out by the time you hit 20, instead of suffering like I did. I literally only started to figure this out a couple years ago. You don't have to hang out with people you don't like. There's a pro-life tip for everybody. You don't have to. One of the things that is a massive indication that you're hanging out with the wrong group of people is that you don't feel comfortable being yourself. The second you try to be somebody else, or you feel like a chameleon just to fit in, you are trying to fit in with the wrong group. Relationships only work when you can be the real you. People thrive on energy. That's what drives connection. You're with people that make you wither and hide and feel insecure. You are with the wrong people. And I know in high school, friends are everything. Friends are more important than family. They define the social structure and pecking order in a high school. I totally get that. It's going to be like that for the rest of your life, believe it or not. If it's hard to be around people, you're with the wrong group of people. When relationships work, they work because they click, and the reason why they click is because you can be the real you. They don't make you feel inferior. You're making yourself feel inferior by hanging out with people and pretending you're not yourself. So every time you're hanging out with a group of people and you act like a chameleon, you're actually invalidating yourself, because your own actions are telling you you're not good enough to just be yourself around these people. So the only way to deal with this is either show up with that group of people and be your full self. And every time you think something inferior, just knock that thought out of your mind, say what you really believe, be interested in what you're really interested in. Or the easier route, honestly, drop the popular kids and find your people. Because I'm going to tell you something else that's true about life. People peak in high school, and you do not want to be one of them. You put priorities on things that don't matter, and that's what makes people popular, that they are good at the things that really don't matter in life when you get older. So look, if you feel like Alan does and you constantly find yourself changing or chasing people that you can't be yourself around, stop it. That's a terrible habit. You're a people pleaser, and that's the thing that you need to deal with. You need to find your people. And your people are the kind of people that the second you hang out with them, you don't feel like less of yourself, you feel like more of yourself. You don't feel like you gotta hide or be somebody else. You feel like you wanna express yourself and show up and be more of yourself. That's the indication that you have found your people. And promise me, Alan, when I tell you, the second you stop hanging out with these kids that make you feel like a chameleon and you start paying attention to the people that make you feel energized, happy, and alive, you will no longer be a chameleon, you will be yourself.
When life suddenly changes and you feel like you have lost control and you start to feel stuck and powerless, how do you take control when you don't know where your life or the world or this moment is going? And here's the number one thing I want you to know. You don't need to know where this moment or where the world is going. You just need to know where you are going next. And one of the things that has happened, certainly in the pandemic, but it always happens when there's any kind of reckoning in your life, is that when you have something suddenly happen and your life is fundamentally changed, whether it's a death, or somebody says, I don't love you anymore, or you're fired, or you find yourself with a scary health diagnosis,
there is a line in the sand. There is a life before that happened and then a life after that moment happened. And that line in the sand, that reckoning that happens, and it happens for all of us, whether it's happening for you right now or it has happened in the past, I'm telling you, there is a gift inside of this, even the darkest moments, because every single sudden change in your life that makes you feel like you've lost control and you no longer know where you're going, it's like hitting the giant pause button. And if you lean into the moment, there is a chance for tremendous wisdom and growth. There are things that you can do right now in order to take control of where you're going, of what you're thinking about. And you can start to take this moment of change and you can use it to be able to take and make an intentional pivot in the direction that is meant for you next. And one of the things I want to say about this moment is, look, if you're losing loved ones, you are terrified, this has made you lose your job, you feel like you're in that moment where everything, you're falling off a cliff, you're trying to pack a parachute, you're grieving. And so you got to give yourself space to grieve the losses that you're feeling. And when you get a little bit of distance from the grieving and the waves of grief and fear that you're feeling start to space out. They don't ever leave you, but over time, those waves of, holy cow, and I don't want this, and I can't handle this, and why is this happening to me? Time will start to lessen those waves. You will gather your feet underneath you again, and you will absolutely be stronger and be a better version of yourself based on this incredible challenge that you're facing. And I can say that even though you may be facing a tough time, because if you think about your life, you've faced extraordinary challenges and there hasn't been a single one that hasn't made you a better and stronger version of yourself. And this moment will be no different. So I want you to understand that when you get out of the cycle of grief, this is an enormous reckoning, an enormous opportunity for you to hit the pause button and for you to start to ask yourself the question, what do I want my life to look like? Because I think too many of us are sitting here going, I can't wait for my life to get back to normal. I can't wait for this to end. I can't wait to things to go back to normal. And in any moment of reckoning, what happens is there's actually parts of your old life that you don't want to go back to. And there is a tremendous amount that you're learning in this moment that you need to pause and take in and say, okay, based on what I've just learned, based on my old life, when I look ahead to my new life, what is it that I want my new life to look like? This next chapter, I can turn to a blank page, I can take all this wisdom, all this resilience, all this strength, and I can write something new. That's what I want you to know. You don't need to know where the world or where everything is headed. You just need to know where you're going to head next.
If you want to change your life, it begins right here every single morning. There is a powerful skill that I want you to learn. It's simple, it's not easy, and here it is. When that alarm rings, you have got to get out of bed. Look, I know there's a million reasons not to get out of bed. Right now, this morning, I can think of a bunch. It's 40 degrees, raining, disgusting, cold, depressing outside. I feel tired. My bones feel heavy. I have a lot of work to do, and it's stressing me out a little bit. None of that stuff matters. The only thing that matters when it comes to changing your life is, can you keep a promise to yourself? Can you keep a promise to yourself when it feels uncomfortable? Can you keep a promise to yourself when suddenly you don't want to? Can you keep a promise to yourself when it'd be easier not to? That is the core skill that you need to change any area of your life. Because change doesn't require motivation, it requires discipline. You need the discipline to do what you said you were going to do. And I want you to think about this. When you set an alarm, setting an alarm the night before is an act of making a promise to yourself. Setting an alarm, which I do, I get up between 6:15 and 6:45 every day. I am making a promise to myself that I am going to get up when that alarm rings. And if I can't keep a promise to myself because I don't feel like it, I'm cranky, I'm not a morning person, whatever the hell your excuse is, you're not going to be able to keep promises to yourself in any area of your life where you feel uncomfortable, where it's easier to avoid conflict, where you succumb to your excuses, where you soothe yourself instead of pushing through. And I mean this. All change happens the same way, with discipline. All change begins with the decision to change. All change begins with making and keeping promises. So regardless of what you're working on, if you're working on boundaries, if you're working on saying no, if you're working on pushing yourself through discomfort, you can start to practice the skill of showing up for yourself no matter what by simply setting the alarm the night before for when the time you actually need to get up. And when that time comes and that alarm rings and it's time to keep that promise, no matter what you're feeling, your number one job is to keep that promise to yourself. You start to practice this skill of setting the alarm and looking at it as a promise that you're making to yourself. And when that alarm rings, not succumbing to your excuses or your feelings of discomfort, but actually getting up and keeping that promise, you start to do that, your whole life will change. And the reason why is all change is the same. It's about making and keeping small promises. And the more that you do it in one area of your life, the easier it's going to be for you to do it in any other area of your life. Trust me, it's exactly how I've changed my life. I started here. Alarm rings, get out of bed, start your day, go.
How do you love yourself? Words, gifts. You can't give yourself affection. Well, yeah, you can. You remember that thing we used to do as kids where you go, actually, you can give yourself affection. I think, you know how I have this habit? I have this habit of always high-fiving myself in the mirror. I send myself into the day, go get a Mel. That's a form of affection. You can show yourself love through words and through gifts and through actions because love is a verb. And that's the most important thing to think about when you think about practicing self-love and developing habits around self-love. So love is a verb. What are the actions and habits and thoughts that you would have when you think about how you treat or speak to somebody you love? Self-love is about giving yourself all the things that you freely give to the people that you love. And what's so awesome is that when you learn and start practicing how to love yourself, it expands your capacity to love other people more deeply because you can't give other people something that you don't give to yourself. And I know you're like, whoa, I love other people, but you don't truly love other people if you can't love yourself because there's a part of you that doesn't feel worthy. And so you got to practice this stuff. And it's everything. Here are some ways that I practice. First of all, if someone you loved were struggling, what would you recommend they do in terms of how they take care of themselves? First of all, you got to get a good night's sleep. That's a form of self-love. Put good food in your body. That's a form of self-love. Take time for yourself every day. That's a form of self-love. Moving your body and exercising. That's a form of self-love. The biggest form of self-love for me is not criticizing myself. So when I catch myself criticizing myself, trashing myself, beating myself up, I kick that noise and garbage out of my head. And I replace it with something that I would say to somebody that I love. Instead of focusing on the things that are going wrong, I kick that thought out of my mind and I focus on the things that are going right. Another form of self-love for me is I'm constantly soothing and reassuring myself. Mel, hey, I know it's challenging right now, but this is preparing you for something. Mel, I know you're nervous, but you got this. You can face this. And notice I'm using my name, Mel. Study after study has come out that when you talk to yourself and use your own name, it has a much deeper impact on you. You have the experience of almost having someone else be saying it. It lands deeper. And it's also through gifts. I also give myself the gift of buying flowers every time I go to the grocery store.
I started doing that a few years ago. I love flowers. I was always waiting for somebody else to give them to me. And it dawned on me, why the hell don't I just buy them for myself? And so I do. And you'd be surprised. $3, $4, $5, you can always find a small little bouquet at a grocery store. Stick it on your desk. It's a reminder that you love yourself. Remember, love is a verb. Just treat yourself how you would treat somebody that you love, and practice it, and you'll get better and better at it.
And when you're stressed out, you don't feel motivated. You don't feel like focusing. You don't feel like directing your attention to things that require effort. I get it. I feel the exact same way. And what you're going to learn, by the way, I'm going to loop it back to the Power of You course. What you're going to learn is you're going to learn that you can do things to lower your stress. You can learn how to manipulate your parasympathetic nervous system so that you calm down your body and lower the levels of cortisol in your body. And yes, we cover this in the Power of You course, because part of unlocking the power of you is understanding your triggers, understanding how your nervous system is wired, and understanding how when your stress levels are super high, how that impacts your ability to think clearly, how it impacts your confidence, and how it impacts your ability to be courageous in making changes in your life and in drawing boundaries. If you listen to people that tell you you're a mom, you don't know anything, you're a woman, you don't know anything about finance, then you're at fault. I don't listen to anybody who I wouldn't trade places with.
So
Let me say that again. I don't listen to anybody that gives me advice. Do you want to be him? Do you want to be your husband?
No.
Okay. Then let him have his opinion. Thank you. I'm going to do it anyway.
Okay.
And you could also say this. Instead of pointing out all the things that could go wrong, as my husband, it would be really amazing if you would help me think of all the things that could go right. But this is something you want to pursue, and what you have to be able to do is to communicate with your spouse. This is something that matters to me, and you either or you get on board and you help me figure out how to start doing this. And every time your husband says something negative, you tell him that's not allowed. See, we train people how to treat us. If you listen to that garbage, he's going to think that you actually want to hear it. He's going to be trained by you that I'm allowed to talk to you that way. No, he is not. In a project that matters to you, you have the right and you must say, do not point out the negative. From you, I need you to point out the positive. I've been married for 21 years. How I behaved in my year 1 through 5, totally different than how Chris and I behaved 21 years later. Your marriage grows. The way you speak to each other changes. You have to mature. You have to demand that as you're growing as a woman and a human being, that your spouse.
Consider you as so greedy, or you
No.
trying to be some bitch or something?
No. No.
It's like, oh my
No.
God, you trying to be something or something? You know?
Aren't you something?
But it's okay for him to be something.
Of course it is.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, you know, I just not there in that way yet. So
It's up to you.
okay, so
Your husband is not going to bolster your self-confidence. You have to do it.
okay, so we just
You have to draw a line in the sand about how you are willing to be spoken to. You have to make a commitment to yourself that you're going to do this over the next 5 years.
Yes.
And you have to start looking at the positive, and every single day you got to push yourself to do one small thing forward.
Of that.
You start doing that in 1 month, you'll feel totally different. Your husband's going to kill me. It's more important to get it done than to make it perfect. And when we do live streams like Coffee Talk in a way that actually works, which would mean somebody would be here supporting me, oftentimes we don't get them done because we're always on the move. And so this morning I'm doing it solo. This is certainly not perfect. It's not the way I like to do it. Clearly, if I'm in my PJs and we got people running around and I can't even find my coffee and I don't have anything printed out and I'm not even organized, but we're getting it done. And I think it's important for you to see that even, that especially those of us that are out there in the world doing big things, that one of the reasons why we're able to do big things is because we have trained ourselves to just push forward even when things are not the way that you want them to be going, to keep your cool, to roll with the punches even when you don't have the support that you need. And so, I had something happen yesterday. I was in the middle of giving a speech. So imagine this, you're on stage, you are 20 minutes into your speech, you have 40 more minutes to go, you have 30 more slides to go to, which is what was happening at that point. And all of a sudden, my laptop dies. I mean, just blank, you guys. So I've got an entire audience. I'm through the first third of my speech. I have 2/3 of the speech to go, and my speech is a story that has a ton of videos and photos in it. And my laptop died. And what had happened is the AV team had plugged the laptop into a podium that had no power in it. So my laptop was set up correctly. It was plugged in, but it was plugged into something that had absolutely no power source. So over the course of the hour before the tech check to when I was on the stage, the laptop had run out of juice. And so all of a sudden, here I am, completely cold laptop. I just, had this moment where I thought, the first thing in my mind was, holy cow, what am I going to do for the next 40 minutes? And I could feel my stomach start to go crazy and the butterflies to kick in. And it just, wow. I was extremely panicked for about a second. And then I was like, okay, use the tools. Don't get nervous, get excited, because you can show everybody what looks like in front of a live audience to have a massive technical breakdown and not lose your cool. And so I made a joke about it. The AV team ran up. I said, look, you guys have no power here, so take it back there, get it plugged in, and I'll talk for 2 or 3 minutes while you get this thing set up. Now, meanwhile, I'm thinking, while I'm talking to a live audience, what if they don't get this set up? What am I going to do? How am I going to fill the 40 minutes when the whole speech is not only anchored in the story, but it's anchored in all of these photographs and proof of people's stories from around the world? And so I'm like, don't panic, use the tools, Mel. And then all of a sudden the guy shouts out, what's your password? Because my screen was locked. So then I thought, okay, we're going to get this done, not a problem. It took about 5 minutes for things to get back up and running, and it was one of the longer 5-minute periods of my life, but I got through it. And one of the reasons why I got through it is because I've trained myself to roll with the punches. That's what I've trained myself to do. It's incredibly normal when you stop and pause and assess how you feel about your own life and the state of it. It's incredibly normal for you to rank it low, because most of us walk around with a very negative viewpoint about our own lives. That's number one. And that's a mindset and a perspective that we are going to change. Number two, one of the things that has helped me a lot when I get into moments in my life where I get present to disappointment, where I feel very sad, where I start to beat myself up over where I'm at in my life versus where I thought I would be. Specifically, what comes to mind is when I was facing bankruptcy and I was 40 years old and we, had 3 kids, and I thought I should be in a different place in my life. And thinking and judging my current state against where I thought I would be, it made me sink even lower. And so what you're experiencing is very normal. The fastest way to stop beating yourself up, the fastest way to stop feeling regret over where you're at in your life right now, is to literally say to yourself, I did the best I could. I did the best I could. Because guess what? If you could have done more, you would have. And so if you literally just accept where you are, you're not feeling connected, you're not where you wanted to be, you're disappointed with how your life has turned out up until this moment, that's okay. But the first thing that you need to do to free yourself of that negativity is to say, hey, if I was capable of doing more, I would have. I remember there was a moment in time where, this is a really stupid example, but
There was a moment in time where a lot of our friends started buying bigger houses or joining private clubs, or they were able to take their families on very expensive vacations. And that was just something that was not a possibility for me and Chris at the time. And I remember spending years beating myself up, years comparing myself to the people that had nicer clothes, nicer cars, nicer watches, nicer vacations. And it wasn't until I said to myself, well, if I could have afforded those things, I would have bought them, maybe. If I could have afforded to join the club, I might have. I couldn't afford to do it. And there's a massive amount of freedom that comes when you just stop beating yourself up and you acknowledge that if you could have changed it sooner, you would have. But here's what's cool. Once you say that, now you can change it now. And that's what this program's about. So cool to feel the sadness, okay and normal to feel the disappointment. And then say to yourself, hey, I am where I am. If I could have done more, I would have. And now it's time to move on, because guess what? You can do more. You signed up for this program. You're taking your life and the things that you want to change about it very seriously. And the skills that we're going to teach you are going to help you. They're going to help you free yourself from the mental jail. Because I'm going to tell you something. If you spend the next year, which many of you were going to, you were going to spend the next year telling yourself, my life sucks. I should have done something sooner. You are going to spiral in your own head as you beat yourself up over and over and over again. And that's got to stop. The reason why you haven't changed your life to date, you want to know why? It's because your mindset has blown. It's because you live up here. You don't live out in the world, you live up here. And up until this moment, up here has been a very negative place. And I guarantee you, if you were to put your own thoughts in someone else's mind, you know what you would say to me? Well, there's no way in hell Mary would lose that weight if she thought the things that I thought, because I'm constantly saying to myself, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not capable, I should have done it last year, why didn't I do this sooner? The more you think like that, the more stuck you're going to stay. And so that's why it's critical to acknowledge that the reason why you haven't changed sooner and the reason why your life is in the state that it's in is because of how you think. How you think is stopping you from taking action. You're convinced that you're not good enough. You're convinced that it's too late. You're convinced that other people are going to judge you. And I'm here to tell you it's total baloney. Next question.
I'm writing that one down. That was a good little rant.
I need water because I'm feverish. I can feel it. Oh, I'm good. Thanks you. But you know what I do need is we need to find a cord for this this iPhone because the low battery just happened.
Okay. It's all good. So here's another question. We had from someone on Facebook as well. I'm having trouble naming one thing I want to change or improve in the category of self-worth.
Oh, anybody else having trouble naming one thing in the category of self-worth that you want to improve? Anyone? Ooh, lots of hearts. Okay, so whoever asked the question, I'm having trouble naming one thing I want to improve in the category of self-worth.
Yep, and they go on to say, I simply want to have self-worth because I feel I lost it 8 years ago.
I feel I lost my self-worth 8 years ago. Yeah. What else is this person saying?
Not really sure how I could break that category down. Any examples? Or is my answer to just have some of it back? So going back to the visualization, how do you break down something that is specific when it comes to improving and increasing your self-worth? Improving and increasing your self-worth. How do you break it down? Okay, so one of the fastest ways to figure out a goal, if you're just flummoxed, you're like, I just don't even know what to work on here. I feel like I'm in such a hole. I don't even know how to begin. You can do it one of two ways. Because it's not necessarily about a massive transformation. I'm all about incremental progress. And so one of the things that you can do if you're stuck is you could say, okay, I don't know what the heck to do about increasing my self-worth. So here's how you start. If you had more self-worth, what are the things that you would be doing that you're not doing right now? So project yourself into a future state where your self-worth is awesome. What are the things that you do when you live in that state? And that visualization and jumping into the future should give you a clue as to what changes you need to make right now. That's one way that you can handle it. And you can do that with friendships. If your friendships were a 10, what are the things that you would be doing that you're not doing now? If your love life were a 10, what are the things you would be doing that you're not doing now? If your work was a 10, what are the things you would be doing that you're not doing now? That is a way for you to reverse engineer what your goals can be. Another thing that you could do is you could do the opposite. You could say to yourself, how has having no self-worth held me back? Like, get in touch with the pain. And we're going to talk a lot about this tomorrow when we dig deeper into mindset. Get in touch with the pain of what has having low self-worth cost you? How have you held yourself back? And by getting in touch with the pain, you might be inspired to say, wow, I want to stop doing that to myself. So today, we are building on the critical connection between having a positive, deliberate, healthy mindset and how you start the day and what your morning routine is. By way of recap, we've already covered why the number one thing about your morning routine is that the night before you plug your phone in outside of your bedroom, you can leave the ringer on, turn notifications off. If somebody needs to reach you, they can call you, but otherwise you're going to bed. That's number one. Number two, the second the alarm rings, you are to wake up. No hitting the snooze button. Yesterday, I explained in great detail the scientific reason why you do not want to hit the snooze button. And the fact that based on research, it is medically proven that when you hit the snooze button and doze off to sleep, you put your brain in a state of sleep inertia, which impacts your ability to focus, your ability to be positive, your ability to process information for up to 4 hours. That is why it is critical. And step 2 of your morning routine is when that alarm rings, you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, use the 5-second rule and get out of bed. Now, number 3, that's what we're talking about today. The third piece of your morning routine is that for the first 10 to 30 minutes of the day, that time is reserved for your dreams. That time is reserved for you. That time is time that you need to protect. You are not to pick up your phone. Do not turn on the television. Do not turn on the radio. No outside world input. All I want you to do for the first 10 to 30 minutes of the day is I want you to give those 10 to 30 minutes to your dreams. I think your dreams deserve 10 minutes, don't you? And you're not going to give them 10 minutes if the first thing that you do is pick up your phone. It's just not going to happen. Your attention is under siege all day long. All day long, the world is trying to sell you something, or they're trying to serve up something that's salacious or tempting or curiosity provoking in order to get your limbic system, which is the interior part of your brain, the fight or flight, the part of your brain that's triggered by emotion and fear. They're trying to trick you to pay attention to things that just don't matter to your dreams, to your day-to-day life, to your family. And that is why it is critical that the first 10 minutes are reserved for you and your dreams. Now, you may be asking, what is it that you should be doing in those 10 to 30 minutes? I'm so glad you asked because I have a gift to give you today. I have developed a journaling method. I'm not selling you anything. Don't worry. I'm actually giving you something for free. I've developed a journaling method that I worked on for the last 3 years. I've taught it to thousands and thousands and thousands of people around the world, whether I'm teaching it from a stage or whether I've incorporated it into other courses or the other training videos that we've done online. This is a journaling method that I use. It takes less than 5 minutes. It's backed by science. And what I'm going to do for the rest of the week is I'm going to walk you step by step through the various prompts that I use in the first 10 minutes of my day to anchor my mood on something positive, to focus on the one thing that matters to me today, to practice gratitude and to draw boundaries between the things that I need to do and when I need to cut off access to work and when I need to stop working so that I can have a little bit of focus time with my family or with myself for self-care, taking care of myself, whatever. The gift that I'm giving you is in the email that's going out today. We are going to give you a link to the PDF of the 5-second journal. You're going to get the page that I fill out every single morning for free. You can look at it on your phone. You can print it out if you want. You can use it. If you want it, you can of course go to Amazon, but that's not the point of giving it to you. I'm doing these live trainings and I'm teeing up this information because it is so important for you to get deliberate about what you're doing in order to improve your life. And so I want to share with you what I do every morning. I'm going to share with you the science behind it and why I do it and the results that it has created in my life. And I'm going to give you a free template to use so that you can try it out too, so that you can think and be more deliberate about what you're doing. That's the entire point of this, because the morning routine's only going to work if you make it yours. If you are a shift worker and your morning routine begins at midnight, all of these same principles apply. You need to make them work for you, otherwise you're not going to do it. And I'm the kind of person that if something sounds too good to be true, I tend to just sort of get like cynical about things and go, I'm not trying that, that's a gimmick. If I understand the science behind it, which is why I explain the science behind why you should never hit the snooze alarm when you need to get up and get going. When I understand the science and the reason and the research behind something, I am convinced to try it. And when I see results in my own life, then I keep doing it. And so again, today the training is very simple. You're going to continue being deliberate about building a morning routine. Tonight, plug the phone in outside your bedroom. Tomorrow morning when the alarm goes off, you are going to wake up as soon as that alarm gets off. You're welcome to hate me for that. That's fine. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get out of bed. If you're using your phone for the alarm, walk across the room, turn off the alarm. Do not pick up your phone. Do not. Go to a different part of the room. Go to the kitchen. Go to the bathroom. Go to your office. Go somewhere else. Crack open your notebook. The first 10 to 30 minutes are for you. Are for you. If you've got kids that get up really early, wake up 15 minutes earlier than you normally do. So you've got that quiet time in the house for you. In the email that goes out later today, I'm going to put in the email the link to the PDF of the 5-second journal template. You can also get that at 5secondjournal.com. If for some reason you're not on the email list, get to melrobbins.com/mindset reset so we can get these things to you. And in tomorrow's post, we'll be sure to upload a link to the PDF so that you can reach it as well. I want to answer a few questions. Tomorrow, I'm going to break down the journaling method, which is why I want you to have it in front of you tomorrow morning when you wake up so you can try it so that the training goes along with it. I also want to preview something. Many of you have been asking about whether or not we're going to get into anxiety. You better believe it. Now that our trainings have covered the default network in your brain, how to become a deliberate thinker, thinking this, not that, learning how to spot your limiting beliefs and switching gears and choosing what you think about. We're now in the middle of building a habit in the morning that's going to help support you be a deliberate thinker and will also give you control first thing in the morning so that you are in control of what you're thinking about. You've planned your day, you've pushed your dreams forward. That's going to start you out in a totally different way. Then we're going to get into topics like anxiety, depression, how to talk to your kids about anxiety. These are issues and mental health challenges that you face when your limiting beliefs, your worries, and your stress become not only your default, but they start to spin out of control and become the constant way that you think, not just the default that gets triggered. So we're going to be covering all of that in the coming weeks. This is game-changing stuff, but we got to start with the foundational stuff first. Default versus deliberate thinking, thinking this, not that, spotting your limiting beliefs and realizing it's a habit the way that you think that way. It's not the truth. And now building a morning routine so that the way that you wake up, how you wake up, and how you spend those first couple minutes of the day support your mindset changing and give you control through the rest of the day. Before I preview what we're going to talk about tomorrow, let me jump into some of the questions that we've gotten. If you've got questions, just put them right down there. Tell me, did you take the phone challenge? Did you take the snooze alarm challenge? Did you hate it? What did you notice? Share with us what's going on, because by you sharing your story, you're going to be inspiring other people as well. Even if you failed, so what? You're trying something new. Failing is just as good as succeeding at something because you're learning something. And guess what? Tomorrow morning when that alarm rings, you get to go for it again. So shout out to Edith Shaw on Facebook. I wasn't sure if I could actually go to sleep knowing my phone was in another room, but I did. I turned it to silent and went to sleep. It was weird to say the least, and I did find myself reaching for it in the middle of the night only to find it wasn't there. Did you do that too? I know, it's a really crazy habit to break because you don't realize how addicted you are. But here's the good news. This is what Edith noticed. I really noticed the difference. I had space in my mind to think about my day. I visualized for a few moments. I thought about how my day will unfold. I wrote in my planner, and all felt a lot more peaceful and calm. Deirdre, she accepted the challenge last night, which actually had her get out of bed to cut off the foam alarm. Then she put the phone back down until I was ready to check the news. I was so much more productive and awake before leaving my house to get to the gym. I will do this every day now. I am hammering this stuff because it works. Here's a few more. Amy Robbins on Facebook. You mentioned if you wake up before the alarm, you need to get up. I often wake up early but don't want to get up yet. Am I out of luck and just need to get out of bed? Amy, look, you got to make this work for you. So if you wake up before the alarm and you have a meditation practice where you lie in your bed and you meditate, and it works for you, do it. Then get up. What I don't want you to do, Amy, is drift back to sleep, because drifting back to sleep causes your brain to go into another sleep cycle, which lasts 75 to 90 minutes. And if you wake up before the 75 to 90 minutes, you've put your brain in a state of sleep inertia, and that's going to impact your productivity for the next 4 hours and your focus for the next 4 hours. That's why I don't want you drifting back to sleep. I could never lie in bed. I'm not that kind of person because I will fall back asleep. I hate getting up. But if it works for you as part of your mindfulness routine, your morning practice, to wake up before the alarm, have a mindfulness practice, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get up, don't look at your phone, take the first 10 to 30 minutes for yourself, fantastic, go for it. Make it your own. That way you'll actually do it. Jane Harmon McFarland on Facebook. I start work at 6 a.m. every day and the alarm is set for 5:50. Do you just suggest that I wake up earlier, or can I do dream goal time before bed? I really want you to do it when you wake up. I would wake up earlier, Jane. I would wake up at 5:30, and here's why. The reason why is when you wake up, you got a clean slate. What I would love for you to deliberately put into your prefrontal cortex, the executive center of your brain, is I would like you to deliberately put how you want your day to go, what's the one thing that matters to you, and one thing that you can do to advance your dreams. Why? If you go back to some of the earlier trainings when we talk about the 2 modes of the brain and the fact that we all have a default mode network that acts like a filtering system in our minds. Part of the reason why I want you to wake up and engage the executive center of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, and be deliberate about what you're thinking is that by doing that, we are reprogramming your default network. We are telling the default network in your brain, the fabric and filter system in your brain, what you care about and what we want help spotting opportunities around. You know how there are moments in your life where you feel like you're in a state of flow and you notice these magical coincidences and you spot all kinds of interesting connections and things just seem to happen. Part of the reason why that happens, or the law of attraction works, is because by getting deliberate about what you're thinking about and about what you care about, you are priming your mind to be programmed to see connections and opportunities. Visualization, the law of attraction, it's not just some woo-woo garbage. There's hard science that explains why it works, and it has to do with your default mode in your brain, and how when you get deliberate and you engage the executive center in your brain, your prefrontal cortex, you train your brain to help you spot opportunities. Finally, last question, Mikey on Instagram. Why do I feel so guilty for carving out personal time? It's been hard for me since becoming a parent. I'll tell you why, Mikey. I bet it has to do with your limiting belief. I bet it has to do with that negative thing that you default to, whether you think you're not worthy or you think you're not good enough, that somewhere deep down inside, by taking time out for yourself, you are saying to yourself, well, I don't deserve to do that. And the only way that you're going to start to carve out personal time is if you go to war against that limiting belief and you create a new one. And the new one around personal time is, I will be a better parent, a better father, a better husband if I take time and go to the gym. I will be a better parent, a better person, a better husband if I take time to work on my dreams. And by the way, you want your kids to know how to take care of themselves, right? Well, the only way they're going to learn it is if you model it. So if you can't do it for yourself, use modeling, having healthy boundaries and healthy habits as an individual, modeling it for your kids as your motivation. All right, I got to hop because there are 1,500 people in a ballroom downstairs that I need to give a speech to. But tomorrow we are going to add on to this mindset training and the connection with your morning routine, and we're going to get personal. You're going to have a copy of my method and the journaling that I do every morning to prime my mind based on science. I'm going to walk you through step by step each one of the steps. I want you to try them. I want you to tweak them and make them your own. And I want you to continue to fight for that 10 to 30 minutes every morning. Here's the recap on your homework. Tonight, you're going to plug in your phone. Outside of your bedroom, you're going to go to bed. When the alarm rings, you're going to get up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, no snooze. You're going to turn off the alarm if it's on your phone. And tomorrow morning, you're going to take 10 to 30 minutes, all for you. You can meditate. You can plan your day. You can print out the PDF we're going to mail you in a little bit. That's the journaling page from the 5-second journal, my journaling method. You can fill that out and see how that feels. But you're going to practice grabbing your attention and being deliberate and setting your day up to go in the direction you want it to go in. And something's going to surprise you when you do that. You're going to be training your mind to help you make your day go in the direction that you want it to go. And you're going to start noticing all kinds of connections and magical things that happen. I know it sounds really weird, but it's true. This is the beauty of what happens when you get deliberate about what you want to see in the world. You get deliberate about what you want to say to yourself. And as always, continue to spot those limiting beliefs when they rise up today. And the second you see yourself saying, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, why did I say something so stupid? Now's not a good time. I better not say what I really feel. You're going to interrupt that old default and you're going to insert something that's positive, because that is the work of doing a mindset reset. It's not a one and done. It's something you do all day long because you are fighting against a lifetime of limiting beliefs. All right. What else was I going to say? In case nobody else tells you today, I want to be the one to tell you that I love you. And I believe in your ability to make your life better. I believe in your ability to be happier. I believe in your ability to pursue your dreams. And that's why I'm here every day, to remind you of that fact and that you got this. I don't believe in toxic positivity. I don't believe that you just put a positive spin on things and things will disappear and be fine. That's not how the world works. There are very real challenges that you may be facing. You may be facing abuse, violence. You may be up against structural and systematic racism and bias and discrimination. You may be facing extreme poverty. You may be facing all kinds of very real and traumatic things in your life. Simply putting a positive spin on things will not change those very real obstacles. What it changes is you. When you change how you look at things, it changes your ability to deal with the things in your life. It changes your ability to face hard things, and it gives you the courage and the confidence and the resilience and the stamina to chip away at these large obstacles or these past experiences that created trauma or negative self-talk It's going to give you the ability to take the action that you need. And so when you hear me talk about mindset, I want you to understand this doesn't make things disappear. It actually empowers you to be your greatest self, to face the stuff that's very difficult. Because confidence, courage, resilience, these are all things that are inside you. And you don't build this stuff in the high moments. You build your confidence and your courage and your resilience in the low moments. It's like steel. It's forged in the fire of your life. And so even in those moments where you feel like life is punching you in the face and you just want to give up and you have that I can't handle this anymore and why does this keep happening to me? I am telling you, do not give up, because you are building your inner strength every step of the way through these experiences that you're facing in your life. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying you deserve it. I'm saying you have the power within you to face whatever you're dealing with, to find your strength, and to actually change yourself and the situation and the trajectory that you're on for the better.
So you're in a relationship and you've spent the last couple months really working on yourself, right? You've been going to the gym, you've been reading all these incredible books, you got a gratitude journal, maybe you're even about to launch your own business. And so you're growing and you're happy, and yet there's a major problem. And the problem is that the person that you're in love with, they're not interested in personal development at all. What do you do? What do you do when you're growing and the person that it might be the most important person in your life isn't growing with you? It's a huge problem, a huge problem. And I want to break it apart for you, because this is not something that is going to get fixed overnight. And it's something that you can have a direct impact on. And it's also something that can become very serious. So I want you to pay attention. First of all, you got to understand, you cannot change somebody else. You can bitch at them, you can threaten them, you can guilt them, but at the end of the day, it is up to the person that you're with to decide whether or not he or she is going to change. That said, you can do things that influence whether or not they want to. And so the most important thing with personal development, now remember, what's the key word in personal development? It's personal, is you continue to do you. You continue to read the books. You continue to hang out with the people that inspire you. You continue to push your life forward. You continue to go to the gym. And the thing that you're going to do is you're going to share a lot with your partner. You're going to share about what you're learning. You're going to share about who you're hanging out with. You're going to share about all these cool distinctions and tools that you're learning. You're going to share about the things that scare you. You're going to open up in a way that impacts your relationship. The thing you're not going to do is you're not going to tell them they have to do it too. Because the second that you tell somebody to do something, they're going to say no. You may invite them, hey, I'm going to go hang out with so-and-so. You want to come? You can ask them if they'd be interested in reading things. You can ask them questions, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to tell them what to do, because it's going to totally backfire. I remember in 1994 when I first met my husband, Chris, he was taking this personal development course, and I honest to God thought he had joined a cult. I mean, I literally was like, oh my God, I met the man of my dreams. Now the dude is like in a cult. And I remember going to his graduation for the weekend program, and everybody was smiling and wearing name tags, and it was totally irritating, and I was threatened. And here's the thing that's interesting. So let me give you some insight on what may be going on for the person that doesn't want to grow with you. I was really confronted. I was really confronted by what I might learn about myself if I took the same course he took. I was also scared that something would change between us. And so it wasn't that I wasn't interested in growing as a person, it was that I was terrified of the process of doing it, and I was scared of what might get revealed inside of me if I started to change or started to look at myself. So I instead did what a lot of people do. Oh, it's stupid, it's a cult, that's for dumb, I'm not into that kind of thing. Well, what happened is over the course of kind of 3 months, as I was dating Chris and as he was kind of taking these personal development courses, I noticed such a shift in him and such a shift in our relationship that I started to become more and more interested in doing the course too. And so it's important for you to make the invitation. It's important for you to ask if they'd ever want to do it. It's important for you to continue to extend the bridge, but don't ever tell somebody that they have to do it, with one exception. If you've done everything that you possibly can to improve yourself, and you're with somebody that's behaving in a way that's destructive or that is degrading you or that is crossing boundaries that are personal boundaries or safety boundaries, you are 100% within your right to tell somebody that in order to be in the relationship with you, they have to do work on those particular issues. Because that's no longer about personal development, it's about the development of your relationship together. So if somebody says no when they're crossing boundaries or when there's something about how they're treating you that doesn't work for you, then you need to get out of the relationship. Because it's no longer about somebody growing with you, it's about you being in a relationship with somebody who is actively doing things to hurt you, to cross boundaries, to make you miserable, and they have zero respect for you because they are not willing to address it. So again, personal development is personal. You can't make somebody change. You need to focus on what you're doing, but make sure you share your journey. Make sure you continue to make the invitation. Don't punish the person when they say no. But if boundaries start to get crossed, if they start to be abusive or destructive or annoying. I mean, Chris, for example, also loves to backcountry ski, something I don't really like to do. So I support him in going, but I don't participate. If I were the kind of person that wouldn't allow him to do it, that was snarky whenever he did it, that would be crossing a line. Then he is allowed to make requests. So remember, personal development is about you personally growing. And the cool thing about personally growing is that as you grow, if you're in the right relationship, eventually the person will come around and want to grow with you. They'll be supportive of what you're doing. That's how they're growing. But when it becomes a situation where you're with somebody that's destructive about what you're doing, that's a major red flag that you need to deal with. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for checking this video out. And if you like this one, I have a feeling you're going to like this one too. I'll see you there.